Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. I don't know why I can't. Give me just a second here. I'm not sure. I can't see all of you, and I want to be able to see your comments. Oh, sugar. Darn, I can't see you, so therefore I can't see your comments, which bums me out. Let me just try one more thing. I didn't set this up today. The youngins are away and left me to fend for myself, which is not a good thing. All right, well, that kind of stinks. I'll be able to see your comments later, but I can't see them right now, so I can't greet you individually the way that I normally do. I have two things to do before going on vacation for a week. 15 hours of radio, finished. Lots of podcasts, finished. Book club interviews, finished. CNN appearances, finished. I get to chat with all of you, unfortunately, as sort of a one-way street today, and then do a CNN program where these, I think, will be the first words out of my mouth. And this is something that I want to address here. Everybody's doing it but the federal government. My law firm is doing it. CNN is doing it. Indiana University and my son's schools are doing it. The largest hospital system in Houston is doing it. The Foo Fighters are doing it. Even Dead & Company are doing it. So why not the nation's largest employer, the federal government? Why, amidst this vaccine hesitancy, is President Biden not ordering all 9 million federal employees, including the military, to get vaccinated? I think I'm ahead of the curve on this issue because this is going to get bigger and bigger. The momentum for saying, not just to private sector employers like mine, but to the government, hey, force it on everybody. In other words, why are we allowing the, hang on a second, let me just take a look at this. Chat is disabled. Okay, thank you, TC. TC telling me chat is disabled. Sorry about that. But hopefully you can still all hear what I'm saying. So I think that the momentum is going to build on government at all levels to force their employees to do what so many in the private sector are doing. Just today's print edition of the New York Times raises a really interesting issue. Look at this headline. New York mayor urges employers to require shots. Well, hey, Bill de Blasio, you're an employer. So what about you? And further along in the story, it notes, and I'm going to note this in my CNN commentary today, that of all places, it's San Francisco, where Mayor London Breed is the first in the nation to require that San Francisco employees get the vaccine. Now, there's a caveat there, which is that in the case of San Francisco, the requirement kicks in after final approval is given to one of the vaccines. And after one of the vaccines gets final approval, then the clock starts running and the employees all have to be vaccinated. That's not required by law. Quote, requiring vaccinations has been less common among municipal governments, which have faced strong opposition from unions. Last month, San Francisco became one of the first major American cities to announce that all of its workers, more than 35,000 people, would receive a vaccine or risk disciplinary action. The move will take effect, the authorities said, after the Food and Drug Administration has approved the use of at least one of the 3 vaccines now being administered under an emergency order. After the agency's approval, San Francisco employees will have 10 weeks to get vaccinated. That's too lax, but okay, it's a step in the right direction. A subset of workers, those in high-risk settings like jails and nursing homes, must be vaccinated by September 15. Still, for government officials who have seemed wary about forcing the coronavirus vaccine on the population at large, requiring public employees to get the shots is a potentially powerful tool for mitigating another wave of the pandemic, experts say. Well, that's exactly what I've been saying all week on radio and what I'll say on television today. And it does say that relative to New York, a city official said it was also considering a vaccine mandate like San Francisco's. I get the whole back and forth in terms of blaming Facebook last week between the president and the social media platform. But at the end of his pen, the president has the ability to order 9 million federal employees, including all members of the military, to get vaccinated. And I think he should do it. Allowing for, as the EEOC guidelines said for private sector employees, allowing for a sincere religious belief or someone who, because of their medical condition, can't get it. But it's time to up the ante and not allow the unvaccinated to dictate policy. I really resist the idea that because we don't know who the unvaccinated are, then everybody should have to wear a mask again. No, that's backwards. Forget it. Let's turn up the heat on the people who are unvaccinated. They are the ones allowing this Delta variant to thrive. And that needs to be said. And something else that's interesting, and I mentioned this on radio this week, and I'm going to get into this today as well. If you check out my Instagram page, you'll see an old school photograph of me back in the day. Let me just see if I can show you something real quick. Yeah, let me just see. Ready? Is that great? That is yours truly, idolizing Bernard Marcel Perrant. Our family had a bumper sticker on our car, as everybody else did in the neighborhood, that said, "Only the Lord saves more than Perrant." And Bernie Perrant was the goaltender of the Flyers, and I wanted to be him. I wanted to dress like him, skate like him, block shots like him. In other words, growing up, he was the guy that I idolized. I still idolize him. I've met him and gotten to know him a little bit, and he's a wonderful guy. How about American youth today who are looking up at sport figures like the Philadelphia Phillies, where half the roster is unvaccinated? And a subject that I got into on radio this week, which was should we know who they are? In this story, why didn't Marcus Hayes of the Philadelphia Inquirer name their names? And if you're saying, oh no, that's a HIPAA violation, no, it's not a HIPAA violation. HIPAA applies to a physician or employer's release of your medical records. These are not medical records. If I know that you've been vaccinated or not vaccinated, I don't know your medical condition. I don't know your blood pressure. I don't know your EKG. I don't know your urinalysis. All I know is, did you get the vax or not get the vax? So Dak Prescott, the Cowboys quarterback, had a presser yesterday, and he was asked this issue. Asked at a press conference on Friday if he had received the vaccine, Prescott replied, "I don't necessarily think that's exactly important. I think that's HIPAA." And social media now has been hammering him because, as I just told you, no, there is not a HIPAA issue here. So I argue the following, that when you are a sports star and when you're getting paid those big bucks, part and parcel of the responsibility that comes with it is not only to show up and give your best, but also to be a role model and be a solid citizen. Get vaccinated. So I want to talk about all of that today, and I will, I'm going to make the case, as I've just made very briefly to all of you here, that it's time for government to lead. And government leading means that on a national, state, and local level, all government employees, yes, cops, firefighters, emergent responders, all of them need to get vaccinated. I mean, how can you say, oh, private sector, tell your people, force them to get vaccinated when you are an employer, Bill de Blasio? So take on the unions and force everybody who works in New York City for the government to get vaccinated. I don't want to come off as all preachy, but that is what is number one on my mind. And then two other things that I'm going to get into today. I I love this story. I still love this story. This is one of the funnier moments that I had in radio recently, where this woman has posted obscene signs about President Biden on her front lawn, 7, 10 of them. This is in New Jersey. And I interviewed the mayor of that community. It's Roselle Park, and talked to him about his attempts to get her to take them down. Then I had her on radio talking about her mindset in putting them up and why she won't take them down. It's become this free speech brouhaha in which the ACLU is now on her side. And this is not the offensive sign that is at issue here. It's an F Biden, only it spells it out sign that is most problematic, and she's a block away from a school. But because she's using the curse in association with the president, it takes on political speech connotations. And there's a very stringent standard that applies to whether government can force her to take those signs down. So the mayor will be on the program with me today, and we'll talk briefly about that issue. I mentioned the Phillies. I'm going to talk about the Phillies. I'm going to scold the Philadelphia Phillies for not getting vaccines. And then I'm going to talk about psychedelics, mushrooms, psilocybin as a means of dealing with anxiety and depression. Because, we had sort of the Kool-Aid acid test era, the Grateful Dead and so forth, back in the 60s and 70s. And then came the Reagan 80s Just Say No, which I think halted legitimate medical examination and exploration of the potential medicinal values of mushrooms. And now all of a sudden, everything has changed again. As reported by the New York Times, after decades of demonization and criminalization, psychedelic drugs are on the cusp of entering mainstream psychiatry with profound implications for a field that in recent decades has seen few pharmacological advancements for the treatment of mental disorders and addiction. Might the ticket to better health be mushrooms in a strictly regulated environment? Love the subject, fascinated by it, trying to learn as much as I can. Read Michael Pollan's book a couple of years ago. That's the one that really started people thinking in a different, what was it? You Can Change Your Mind. I should give you the proper title in case you're looking for How to Change Your Mind. Yeah, recommend that book. So apologies for not being able to have two-way dialogue with all of you. Hoping you'll watch the CNN program. I'm off from radio for the next week, but there'll be a daily release of a podcast, a book club podcast. Of course, make sure you're listening to TC After Dark, and I'll stay in touch by social media, okay? I don't think that I said, I am going away. I don't think I said on air where I'm going, so maybe I'll drop some breadcrumbs via Instagram, okay? Be well, get the shot, share with your friends. The one data point, there's essentially no one hospitalized in the country right now who's been fully vaccinated and is hospitalized for something COVID related. Everybody in the hospital, you can say it with these broad strokes, everybody or virtually everybody. Yeah, there are some aberrant, freakish cases that pop through, but virtually everyone hospitalized today for a COVID-related illness has one other thing in common. They're unvaccinated. If you get vaccinated, there is a very tiny likelihood you could still get it, but it's not going to kill you, and it's not going to make you real sick. That's the one bottom line to share with those who are unvaccinated, and frankly, making life much more difficult for all of us, them and us, than it needs to be. Get the jab. See ya.